Do you know who has the most efficient offense in the NFL through 2 weeks? It's the Indianapolis Colts. Listen, I was willing to stay skeptical after week 1 and chalk it up to the Colts playing a lifeless Miami Dolphins team in that win. But after the kind of performance that the Colts offense put up against a top-tier defensive unit on Sunday, I think I'm willing to admit it. I think I was wrong about Daniel Jones. For the first time since 2009, the Indianapolis Colts are 2-0 after a dramatic comeback win over the Denver Broncos. Jones kept the sticks moving and kept the Colts hanging around in the win, completing 23 of 34 passes for 316 yards and a touchdown, while adding another TD on the ground. While it hasn't always been pretty, the Colts have been remarkably consistent, becoming the first team in NFL history to score points on their first 10 possessions of the season. They're also the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt a single time in their first 2 games of the year. How bored is Rigoberto Sanchez right now? Jones came to Indianapolis with Colts fans hoping that at the very least he would push first-round pick Anthony Richardson to become a more consistent quarterback. Instead, Jones messed around and won the starting job despite many, including myself, thinking the move was a mistake, hindering Richardson's long-term development for a QB who was viewed as average at best and detrimental to an offense at worst. That emphatically has not been the case through the first 2 weeks of the season. It's not just that Jones has had 0 turnovers or is averaging 9.3 yards per attempt. He's also taking chances and trying to push the ball vertically to keep defenses from crashing down on anything underneath. Just look at his advanced metrics from RBs Don't Matter. From Sunday against one of the most talented teams in the league, not only did he generate 11.4 total EPA and 0.26 EPA per play, but his average depth of target, or how far he was passing it down the field on average, was 10.1 yards downfield. His passing chart showed that he's not just this efficient, accurate quarterback on the underneath and intermediate stuff, but Jones also took a few chances deep downfield, including a 44-yard completion to Alec Pierce. Against all odds, Jones, a former first-round pick, is suddenly leading an offense that leads the NFL in expected points added per drive and success rate. This comes just 1 year after it looked like Daniel Jones' career was heading towards obscurity after being released by the New York Giants and then spending the remainder of the year with the Minnesota Vikings, predominantly on their practice squad. Head coach Shane Steichen decided to start Jones over Richardson for a very specific reason, and his comments heading into the Week 1 game against the Miami Dolphins helped shed some light on how the Colts and their coaching staff viewed Jones and what he could bring to the table for this team.
Like I said, he finds completions, and I think that's a big part of this thing. Is knowing how to throw it, when to throw it, and where to throw it, and I think he's done a really nice job of that. I'm excited for his opportunity. Stay steady, find completions, keep us on track. You know what I mean? And at that position, that's what it is. It's finding completions, moving the football, not making bad plays worse. And I talked about the operation. Feel very confident in his operation at the line of scrimmage, getting us in and out of the right plays, and I know the team feels confident in that as well.
It felt like the vast majority of Colts fans were very frustrated with the decision to start Jones over Richardson before the start of the season, but they are proving everyone wrong. So let's dive into the tape from Sunday's win over the Broncos and take a look at what is making Jones so efficient in today's episode of Best Available. Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and follow us on socials at BestAvailableYT. We have videos that come out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and some occasional live streams on Sunday. So make sure that you check all of those out, and let's dive into, I can't believe I'm saying this, Daniel Jones film. Jones is not this elite talent at the quarterback position, but everything he's doing so far through 2 weeks is just the right play, efficiently, and yes, there is some talent there, and I think that's important to contextualize because it is a big reason why the Giants took him out of Duke all those years ago. This was an inexperienced quarterback, but had a lot of those physical tools that teams wanted to see, and I really think that he's blending like everything when it comes to this Colts offense. So why don't we go ahead and get started? These are my 10 favorite plays that he had from this game. This is his first drop back of the game. I just like the concept and how Daniel Jones is layering this ball. So what we're going to have here is we're going to have this whip route from Warren that's going to influence these second-level defenders. And then you can't see him on the screen right now, but we're going to have this crosser from Josh Downs coming across the formation. But that's not why I was impressed with this first drop back. It's because this is all a mess, right? We've got inside pressure here, outside pressure here. This guy's unblocked. We've got this guy diving at his feet. So Daniel Jones is resetting the pocket and just has it to layer that ball. That is a very tough throw. And for this to be his first drop back of the game, should have a clean pocket at the top of his drop. Instead, everything's a mess. And he knows he's about to get hit. He even, I think, is just kind of getting grazed here by that D tackle. But, he's still just keeping his eyes downfield while, avoiding that pressure. That's what I love. If you watch just his eyes the whole time, you never once see him drop his eyes. He is looking for that crosser the whole way. And again, if we're talking about that whip route, notice how this, we're vacating that throwing window because of that whip route. So nice design by Steichen. And then I think that's a hell of a throw through contact under duress from Jones for your first drop back pass attempt of the night, I guess of the early afternoon. But that is a hell of a play to get started. If you listen to that clip earlier in this video from Steichen talking about keeping everything on schedule, throwing with timing, anticipation, all of that, I think that's why this Colts offense is firing on all cylinders right now. Jones' internal clock is night and day different from what I saw in New York. So with this is just a simple out route from downs, and we need to throw that in stride with anticipation. The nightmare is staring it down and having a corner jump it. Like if this corner's bailing and sees this out route coming, you can just turn and jump it. We don't want something like that. But I like here, if you just look at his footwork, sets it, throws it, just look at his drop back and how efficient this is. Maybe he's a little toesy, maybe he's a little hoppy in the pocket at first, but I like how he just settles his feet in and just fires through that throw. His follow through looks nice. Everything about this is great timing to deliver the out route. Especially on an out route, you can't hesitate. You need to have a strong arm with some zip. I think he does a nice job of hitting downs in stride here with good timing and anticipation. He's at the back of his drop, let it go. You cannot hesitate on this throw. Bad things happen when you hesitate on it. Just like, everything about this mechanically, timing wise. And he has some arms talent. Like it's something that absolutely showed up on this tape is, he can still deliver with some zip outside the hashes, which is, one of the harder throws at the NFL level. I just thought it was an overall nice play. This was a fun look. I like that they fake the Tyler Warren sneak here, and then he bails out of it. But if you watched the Tyler Warren video, you'll actually appreciate this. Something that we had talked about in that video was how to utilize Warren. And one of those concepts was arrow, which can also be slice based on what side the tight end's on. But this exact concept we talked about in the Tyler Warren video. So if you want to go back and check that out, you absolutely should. But it's a read option. So we're reading this defender, but we also have a flat route coming from across the formation with Warren. So we're reading this end. If he's crashing on this, Daniel Jones is going to escape. And then ideally, he's just looking for Warren coming across on that flat. So what do we have here when we run this? Total crash. His shoulders are not square. He's totally going for the running back. I think this guy does a great job of recovering, though. And, this defender reads the flat really well. So this is all held up really well. This could be a broken play on a third down. That's not what we want. But Jones has some legit athletic ability that, he doesn't look like it because he's kind of a big goofball. But I do think he has some legitimate mobility. It's something that showed up on his Duke tape in college. I just appreciate, that subtle pump fake to, get the crashing end to hesitate. And then he just gets around him. And it's only 2 yards, but it's a first down. And I think a lot of people, especially people that are just like very fantasy brained, are always thinking about yards and touchdowns. But in my opinion, the true lifeblood of an NFL offense is consistent first downs. You can make explosive plays. I think that's really exciting. I don't agree with the concept that that's sustainable enough to be a top tier unit in the league. You need to be able to consistently generate first downs. And, a play like this, where it's something so easy as a 2-yard run, is massively important for an offense to continue being as efficient as the Colts are. Because again, Rigoberto Sanchez has not punted yet this year. They are producing points on almost every single one of their drives. I think the only one this game was that there was a end of half where they just nailed it. The efficiency requires first downs, and this is a really nice play from Jones to get one of those. I really love some of the ways the Colts are utilizing Tyler Warren. I think he's been all over the place. Here we have him as a fullback, which warms my heart. But it's just all of the different ways they can utilize him. And this is a really fun concept. We're going to fake um, an insert block here. So it is a play fake. We're going to fake this insert block after Warren motions into fullback. And it's kind of a play action leak with a tight end, but he's out of a fullback alignment. So he's going to insert here. And instead of blocking, as they realize it's a fake, he's just going to keep going. And if you watch the linebackers, just watch how everyone gains depth here. Not gains depth, they crash in. As soon as they realize it's a play fake, their instincts are to crash on the flats, right? Because they see Jonathan Taylor. They think that's where he's going. I mean, this linebacker should have Warren, but his eyes are on Taylor the whole way. And that leaves open Tyler Warren deep downfield. And that's still not the easiest throw. Again, there's a little pressure coming. Layers that ball over the linebacker, who has to turn his head. And then Warren's wide open. That's a huge explosive play. And I just really enjoy that. It's a really nice design, but also a good job from Jones to run the play fake, stay composed in the pocket when things aren't going great. He resets his platform slightly to the left and then just layers that ball over the linebacker. Wide open throw. I really like the concept. I like how Daniel Jones, stays composed with the pressure. I actually thought that was one of the recurring themes, along with throwing with, timing, anticipation. He didn't seem as phased against pressure as I was expecting. And I just thought that was a great concept and a nice throw for, a very explosive play. I want you to pay attention to Jones' throwing motion here because I thought this was a little funky it's kind of a pump fake here, but it almost looks like Jones is hesitating on the throw, which in theory should completely mess up those mechanics. You see how he's like, and then lets it out. He doesn't reset everything on that hesitation. Like he still gets that ball out without essentially going through his whole release again. I hope that's making sense to you, but that little hesitation can really throw off the placement and accuracy for a quarterback. But I think the reason this is still a really good throw in stride, if you notice Downs does not have to slow down at all on that, gives him that separation he needs to cut upfield for more yards, is that follow through from Jones. So if you watch him as he releases that, I think one of the things that looks different to me, maybe it's because I didn't watch a ton of Giants games, but it really feels like he's emphasizing following through on his passes, and it's giving it a bit more zip on those passes. I think his mechanics have looked really clean these first two games, and I just think that's a nice job of it's not the prettiest throw. He's hesitating. It's not the prettiest mechanics, and he's hesitating a little bit, but he's still delivering an accurate ball outside the hashes in stride for extra yards. And I just think that's, it's not the biggest or most exciting play, but I like showing some little plays like this in my videos because I think there's some added context I just find interesting, and I hope you do too. I thought this was a great deep shot. I really did. I really like that Jones recognizes what he sees post-snap processing. What you're teaching quarterbacks typically, even from an early age, is after the snap, you're reading the safeties, right? So the alignment here should tell you something's up. Talanoa Hufanga is, a little more shallow than the other safety. And what that's telling me is there's likely some kind of rotation happening. Because, yes, this is kind of a too high shell, but it does seem odd that, there's a 5-yard stagger between these two, right? So as the snap happens, you can see we're bailing to a single high look, right? 2 high safeties done. This guy's playing either a hook or a flat drop. And then we have a single high safety, so his job is just to cover sideline to sideline deep. So Jones, what I appreciate, he's keeping his eyes neutral. He's reading those safeties, right? And at the bottom of our screen, and I can get this moved real quick, we have this one-on-one battle. I just did not want my head in the way of Daniel Jones as we were talking about this. So as those safeties rotate, you can see Pierce just goes deep for it, and Jones reads the safeties. We've got a step. Not the best throw. I think if you're hitting this more in stride, I think it might be a touchdown. But Pierce is, I think, one of the best deep ball receivers in the league right now, which is funny. Like, again, I don't think he is the fastest, but he's so big and fast and tracks the ball so well that, it doesn't have to be the most accurate pass for him to haul it in. Yes, a little underthrown, but it is the right decision from Jones to read that safety rotation. Again, watch it. Watch how these two safeties react at the snap. Snap, zone, and then single high rotation. And Jones reads that because when that safety bails to single high and he's going with his momentum this way, he can't just suddenly turn and get over this, right? He has to flip his hips entirely and then go. So it's one of the things when you think about flipping hips, especially when you're thinking about, wide receivers and manipulating DBs. He's already at full speed. This guy's at 0 and still can't go from 0 until his hips are completely turned. And then he can go. And I just think that's why it's so important to understand where a DB or a defender's hips are on a play, because it takes them that extra, tenth, quarter of a second to flip their hips before running. But even then, it's just this safety was never going to have any chance. He gets caught reading downs right there, and then it's just a huge deep shot for a 44-yard gain. Great play. This was best deep throw of the night from Jones. Again, not the most accurate, but it's the absolute right decision, and you get it up to a playmaker like Alec Pierce. Another good example of Jones throwing with anticipation and timing here. We have a play fake, and we're going to see on the left side of the screen, we have Michael Pittman against Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain on a slant or a glance, depending on his feet, which we can't see here. But we're play faking here, and then you can see Pittman coming up at the screen. He's got inside leverage here, which is going to help him break inside. And Jones is firing that as he's getting into that break, and then the accuracy there is impressive. Top of the drop, just let it go. Don't hesitate and wait for Pittman to get open. Throw him open. That anticipation's great. Pittman's getting mauled by Surtain, but I just think the timing on this, and then look at where that ball is. Let me try and pause it. That is some excellent, excellent ball placement. Surtain making a really nice play on this, but the ball is right in Pittman's hands where Surtain cannot get to it. I think that is phenomenal placement from Jones, especially after having your back turned to the defense. Like when you're turned like this and then you get set, you have to process all the information, a half second, shorter amount of time, because the pass rush is already going, the coverage is already disguising itself. This works because this linebacker bites, and we have this throwing window now because he's no longer back here and he's looking at the running back. We have this throwing window. Everything about this I love. His timing, his placement on this. It's a 12-yard gain. That's a phenomenal play. We'll take 12-yard gains all day. Are you kidding me? And to do that against the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and throw with that kind of accuracy, that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, this is a different version of Daniel Jones than we've seen before through 2 games. Anticipation and timing are just all over the film in this one. Pay attention to Warren here, and then we'll pause this and go back, but he's getting turned right here. The ball's already out, and it's a nice completion for a solid gain. That's 10 yards. I'm going to pause it and just see, when we talk about anticipation, this is throwing before a guy gets open, throw him to get open. By the time Jones is winding up to throw this, he is literally about to deliver it. Warren's not even out of his break yet. That ball is out, and he has just made his plant foot cut to get into this break. So by the time Warren even looks up and has created separation, that ball's already here. That's the kind of anticipation we're talking about at the NFL level. You need to be able to throw and expect that your receiver is going to get open. It is outstanding timing and throwing. Against a blitz, too, it looks like there's extra rushers coming. We have an extra linebacker and then, an underneath defender, kind of a spy, not really, just kind of covering Taylor in case he leaks out. But I love everything about that anticipation throw to Warren, who, by the way, another great Warren game. What do you have? 7 catches for 79 yards after 9 catches the week before. This guy is a clear part of the Colts offense. And I mean, even in this game alone, we're talking about all the different ways they've utilized him. This is a grown man receiver route. We had that leak as a fullback. I think he had another rushing attempt in this game. He is a true chess piece, and I just think he is the perfect, option for Daniel Jones. These two have such a clear chemistry already, and this is another example of that kind of chemistry. Just great anticipation to trust Warren that he's going to cut at the right depth and get open and catch that ball. Nice play all around. One of the things I didn't love from week 1 was the RPO game with Daniel Jones. I thought he was rushing his delivery. These were mostly now screens on the perimeter where you're just trying to get, to a wide receiver behind the line of scrimmage with a blocker and go. And I just thought the accuracy was a little nasty there. We saw some downfield RPO games, so some slant glance stuff, and that I think is much more in Daniel Jones' bag, and this is an example of that. Again, when you're wondering if it's a play action or an RPO, where are the linemen stepping? Are they staying neutral or stepping back, or are they attacking? You need to stay within, was it 1.5 yards at the NFL level? If I'm wrong, someone in the comments can let me know. But you can tell by the steps and how they're moving that this is an RPO, everything about their technique and how they're engaging those blocks, and then how they're not trying to climb upfield, but they are run blocking. That is an RPO to me. But that's just to teach you about an RPO. It's just, I think I love this play because the flick here, it's just, this is the kind of stuff Jones can thrive in the RPO game. That's just a simple little flick to a receiver in space. And because Jonathan Taylor is such a threat in the running game, you can just see how all these linebackers vacate their zones. And then it's just a simple flick of the wrist. And it's another nice gain. I want to see more of these RPOs. I'm very curious to see different ways the Colts want to use the RPO game with Jones, because it didn't seem like the now screen stuff was working on the perimeter. But stuff like this in the middle of the field, where Taylor is such a threat to run the ball, it opens up windows. This is the kind of stuff I'm more curious to see, and that's just really nice placement again and timing. I don't think this last play is anything earth-shattering, but I wanted to end on it because A, we go sequentially, but B, very clutch on third down. This is that final drive before the 60-yard kick attempt that turned into a 45-yard gain winner. And I just really appreciate the composure here on third down. So we're just going to have a really well-designed mesh play, which is just 2 crossing routes. Whenever you're mesh, just 2 crossing routes. You're trying to put defenders in conflict. It's going to open up someone if you're running it right without committing OPI. And I just think that's a good play call in the situation. Downs does a nice job of shielding this without committing OPI, and it's going to open this wide open. But it's more so Jones, if you go back to look at the quarterback, staying composed in the pocket and not panicking at this blindside pressure. Because I know he feels it. He's taken a slight step to his right, but he knows that mesh drag route's getting open, and he needs to stay in there for that extra 1/10 of a second to deliver that ball. And that is a first down on third down on the final drive of the game. It's not the flashiest play, but it's that composure and internal clock of like, pressure's coming, I need to get this ball out, that helps generate the first down and eventually help the Colts win the game. Now, we can argue if they deserve the win after the 60-yarder, but it was an illegal play by the Broncos, and the Colts end up going 2-0. But clutch play on third down, stay composed, deliver a strike, get the first down. It just kind of a good way to summarize how the whole game went, of being composed and delivering balls with timing. Daniel Jones is never going to be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, but when he's operating at peak efficiency with timing, anticipation, a little athletic ability, and has a good understanding for what his playmakers are good at, man, like, this is a Colts team that can fire on all cylinders. They have so much talent across the board on both sides of the football. Jones can do enough to make this team a legit playoff contender, and he's absolutely proved me wrong. He's proved a lot of pundits and analysts wrong. But I think that's the beauty of this channel. We're always going to admit when we're wrong. I'm not going to try and gloat when I'm right, but sometimes it's a little fun. But Jones deserves absolutely credit. That's why I made this video. He is just like, I'm still in shock. This is the most efficient offense in football from multiple analytics metrics. What an exciting start for Colts fans. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you're subscribed. Let me know in the comments if you want to see anyone else in the future. We have a Bijan Robinson video we're probably going to do either this week or next, thanks to one of those comments. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on Wednesday for another episode of Best Available.